Welcome back, you all. I think probably one way to get some more views for my videos is to actually do them in bite-sized chunks rather than doing 15, 20, 25-minute long epics that might bore people. So for this, I'm going to do them all at once and release them all at once, but you can watch them in bits. So the first video I was talking about the cover and everything. Now the second video, I'm just going to make some opening comments about this album because I think there's more to reviewing an album like this than just basically the quality of the musical performance and the songs on it. I think in a lot of ways, some of you might get angry because I'm probably going to be criticizing some of his earlier music here when comparing it to this album, is that a lot of Prince's earlier music was, it's a lot of fun, I love it, I especially love all the sexiness, I love the power of Purple Rain, I love the electronic confusion of 1999, but what I love about Around the World in a Day, and it's really the first Prince album to do this, is that this is by far, at the time, this was his most ambitious album. He was definitely going into new regions, both musically and mentally. What I mean by that is that if you listen to the first 6 albums, okay, For You and Prince, really they're sort of just straight ahead R&B, funk, disco type stuff. Good, it has a Prince twist, but it's very cliche music. You've heard it all before. Now, Dirty Mind, that sets out trailblazing punk, funk, a lot of sex and stuff, definitely a lot of shock value. And then Controversy is more like Dirty Mind, but in some ways it feels a bit more sort of overblown, but there is some adventurous. It's still a great album, but it's just not quite on the level of Dirty Mind. Then 1999 goes again. It's an amazing electronic album, but still, emotionally, he's still really exploring two things, sex and confusion. Purple Rain, as you know, he's staying to discover love. Okay, Purple Rain's a very straight ahead of rock album. Purple Rain is a wonderful album, but it's still very one-dimensional compared to this. And like I said, this is about my 8th or 9th favourite Prince album. I like Purple Rain in 1999 and probably even Dirty Mind more than this. It's on about the same level as Controversy, but in some ways this album is so deep because, first of all, like I said in the last video, Prince was listening to a lot more 60s psychedelia and basically white rock. And Wendy and Lisa, Matt Bliston, all those people were giving him musical ideas, and Prince was borrowing them. And I think here, now Prince was this big star, he could start making the grandiose statements, and there's a lot of preaching on this album, I think, in a lot of ways too. I think with Prince, he was very much taking himself to a new level of trying to be like some sort of musical leader or prophet here. Especially this image, he almost makes him look sort of majestic-like in a way, whereas he's kind of discarding the old, lusty pop star of the past. It's very sort of bright red wig. I don't know if Prince ever worn a bright red wig, but I recognise the rest of the outfit. He's kind of like half temptress, half sort of Dirty Mind rocker there, but also, too, I think because Prince explores so many emotions and he goes just beyond sex, he goes into love, but he also goes into the perils of love. Like Condition of the Heart is about a person who's infatuated with someone else, but they know they never have a chance, so he just basically sits in his room playing his piano, going crazy. That's some deep stuff. Temptation is where, instead of just performing a sexual song and saying how great it is to have all this sex, he's actually saying that maybe too much sex is going to put me in trouble with God, basically, and that I've got to tone it back and I've got to realise that there's more to life than just sex. You've got to love as well. And that is a massive realisation for someone like Prince. Don't get me wrong, I love all the sexy stuff. I can sing Do Me Baby all night long, screams and all, but a song like Temptation, a lot of people work it on as a throwaway, but it's got a very deep message. And then probably the deepest cut on the album is The Ladder. A lot of people write that song off, but basically there once lived a prince, who didn't deserve to be one. And he had a subject called Electra who loved him with a power undefined. It could be referring to these people here too. These are moral parables, You've got to search for the ladder, it's within you all, but you've got to keep trying, You've got to go find yourself and find a deeper meaning to it. Prince is saying there's a lot more to life than just being this big-time pop star singing these songs about sex and partying. But there's still sex and party cuts here. Tambourine is pure sex, basically. I'm not going to tell you what tambourine is supposed to be a metaphor for, but I think you guys get some ideas. I want to sit at home and play my baby's tambourine. Yoo-hoo! And it's got some pretty silly lyrics, trolley cars that whistle 17, and then Raspberry Beret is just a wonderful pop song where he goes around the country, he's having sex, but America is another song too. We got this new Prince spirit coming through. America is about, people who don't like democracy, it never works for them, like Jimmy Nothing never stayed in school, so you didn't like it, so he wasn't cool. Nothing made Jimmy proud. Now Jimmy lives on a mushroom cloud, and that's either referring to a nuclear holocaust, something Prince was obsessed with at the time, or basically getting high all the time and basically losing his mind because he's on drugs, so he can't think for himself. So again, very deep message coming through there. And musically too, there's a lot more instruments. Around the World in a Day, that song has just got all these instruments running through it. Prince is playing more sitars, he's playing tabookas, there's more guitars, there's more sort of horns and things in this album. Realistically, Purple Rain, great album it was. The main thrust of Purple Rain was rock guitar, and then, of course, songs like Computer Blue, a lot of synthesizers. you know. But I mean, of course, the best song on that album, I mean, When Doves Cry, I mean, is probably the best apart from the ballad, Beautiful Ones, because basically Prince has got no bass and Prince is singing this very sparse style. In a lot of ways, When Doves Cry is probably the most around the world in the day sounding song off Purple Rain, whereas I mean, Pop Life is clearly Purple Rain sounding on this album. So there's some general notes. Basically, what I'm saying is that the depth of this stuff, I mean, this is an intelligent album. This is written by an artist with a brain. This is not vacuous pop music. This is deep. This is almost reaching into some of the agendas he'd pushed further with Parade and Sign of the Times. You know what I mean? This is basically a thinking man's album. So there's my first sort of general overview. Next, we're going to review some songs.